Morning, guys. Friday morning, heading out to put some parts on that another technician had condemned. As a heat pump, he found it so frozen up that the fan blade would not spin, so we got a defrost board and sensor we're going to put on there. He didn't stop there. He went in to check the air handler and found that the wires inside of the electrical disconnect were starting to discolor, and did some checking and found that the wiring was too small for the amount of heat strips they had in there. So we're going to be replacing the disconnect, stripping back the wire, making some good connections, and replacing the heat strips. We'll see you on the job site. I'm on I-20 heading towards Atlanta. This is typical. I'll be in this for probably the next 20 to 30 minutes. It is now 7:45 and we have just now hit our exit. This is a very old part of Atlanta called Kirkwood. Looks like we have a nice attic to work in this morning. Not too bad of an attic. We got a Amana horizontal air handler. Before I came up in the attic, I turned the breaker off at the electrical panel. We'll check voltage and make sure that there's no juice here. All right, we got our Redfish IDVM 550 set to volts, and we are on the incoming side of our line voltage. As you can see, we have nothing present. The way we can tell that it's the incoming side is this wire here goes right down into the cabinet, and that one heads on out to the breaker panel. I took the guts out of it to make it a little easier to work with. It's just two screws there and there. We got to put a knockout on the back so it lines up with that hole. And we'll knock one out right here so the line voltage coming from the breaker can go in. And you just get you a screwdriver or something and knock that out. Sometimes you have to take that little smaller ring out to make your connection fitting fit. All right, got my connectors in. I was able to run this through the hole that they had made in the cabinet, so that's nice and secure. I'll put a couple of screws in here when we're done. We're going to go ahead and replace these heat strips. We just need to unplug this plug and take our line voltage off, and our new heat strip should come with a new terminal block, but we will see. When you're making new electrical connections, always cut back from the old connections and restrip the insulation back. Be very careful not to break through the insulation and nick your wires. That will cause problems in the future. We've got our new strips out of the box. It does not have terminal lugs like the old one. Down there, they have provided us with a contactor. So we will be hooking our line voltage to our contactor right here. Those weren't even tight. And we'll take out these 4 screws. Whoop, that's in the way. There. And there. The new ones will slide right in. All right, we got our new heat strips in. We got wired up. Black to L1, white to L2. We got our harness snapped in. So we are ready to fire this thing up. And we got our wires stripped back. We're ready to wire it up to our new disconnect box. We got a wire run up from our air handler, and that is our load side. So we will hook that L1, L2, and we designated 1 and 2 inside the air handler. And we'll do the same for the line voltage coming in, which will go to line, L1, line, L2. All right, we got it all wired in. All my lugs are nice and tight. Got screwed in 3 places, so it's not going anywhere. Got my electrical connectors tightened down. So we are ready to put the cover on it. Tighten that down. Put our plug in. And we'll get our amp meter and check out the amp draw. Make sure we're okay. All right, we are powered up. We got our redfish meter turned to kilowatts. And these are actually 8 kW strips. As you can see, we're pulling 8.2. I am measuring total amp draw. So we're picking up the blower motor amps as well. Pulling 34 amps, 238 volts being applied. Looking pretty good. COSO 1. Power factor of 1. Doesn't get any better than that. Alright, all buttoned up and cleaned up and ready to go play with the heat pump now. Alright, got the heat pump fired up. It's running 333 pounds a head on a 38 degree day. I got 138 degree hot gas line. And I noticed we have a clothes dryer vent over here. And if you come over in here and take a look, we'll see this coil is in desperate need of cleaning. So we'll get that squared away. All right, we got the disconnect pulled out, so we are safe to proceed. Changing out our defrost control. And I always find it a good practice to take a picture of all the wiring. We do have our wiring diagram, but just a good habit to get into. All right, we got the top off, and Goodman is notorious for putting their defrost sensor in a really tight spot down here. So we'll get that squared away. No problem. Here's our defrost board. 2 screws holding it in, one up here and one back down up under there. And just a word of advice, always kill power to the air handler, because there is a constant 24 volts being supplied to this board. All right, got the coil all cleaned up. We are ready to go. Y'all be careful.